You watch your child walk toward other kids because your child really wants genuine connection. And sometimes within minutes, something goes sideways. Maybe the conversation gets awkward or the other kids drift away. Maybe your child starts talking about something the other child just doesn't care about. Maybe there's a small conflict that seems to come out of nowhere. And afterward, you keep feeling like, my child really wants friends, so why does this keep feeling so hard? A lot of the advice you hear about friendship focuses on teaching autistic children social skills like make eye contact, ask questions, take turns in conversation, show interest in what the other person likes. And those things can help somewhat sometimes. The problem when we do that is that we make friendship seem like it's all about performing social roles. But connection and performance are obviously two very different things. So when your child spends a tremendous amount of time trying to perform social roles correctly, they can walk away feeling discouraged, exhausted, and unfulfilled. So in this video, I want to talk about this social disconnect and what you can do to help your autistic child build connection and social confidence in ways that feel meaningful and sustainable to them. If we haven't met yet, I'm Andrea Pollack. I'm a parenting educator, coach, and parent of an autistic adult. Let's get into it. A lot of autistic children get taught social interaction almost like a checklist, right? We talked about it. Ask questions, make eye contact, don't talk too long about one topic, remember to ask the other person about themselves. And sometimes you can watch your child try incredibly hard to follow those rules while still struggling to connect. Maybe you've met the child who asks every person the exact same question because they were taught that asking questions is how you make conversation. When's your birthday? Or what kind of car do you drive? You can almost hear the script underneath it. Or maybe the child at school whose job is putting the lunch containers away every day. And every single day they ask, where should I put the container? He knows where the container goes. He's just trying to create interaction. And then there are the children who are genuinely trying to connect through something that they love. I've met a number of children who are fascinated by the New York City subway system. One child would repeatedly ask people, what train do you take to get here? And the moment the person answers, he lights up and he talks about all the other routes they could have taken. He's talking about express trains and comparing subway lines, explaining which routes are faster and why. And from the outside, it can look like he's not interested in the other person. But often, your child is trying very hard to connect. They're just connecting through shared information, enthusiasm, and their own deep interest instead of the kind of back and forth conversation that we tend to define as socially correct. But when social interaction repeatedly feels confusing, discouraging, or draining, your child may start wanting less of it because people naturally move toward interactions that feel meaningful and away from ones that consistently don't. There's something else happening underneath many of these interactions that we should keep in mind. Many autistic children are trying to socialize on a nervous system that's already working harder to regulate attention, emotion, sensory input, and stress, which means social interaction can take a tremendous amount out of them, even when they really want that connection. And there's another layer to this too. Research shows that the mismatch that happens between autistic and neurotypical people, or NTs as I'll refer to them now, disconnect is the two-sided issue. So it turns out that autistic people often communicate quite effectively with other autistic people, and NTs communicate effectively with other NTs. The difficulty tends to happen more across neurotypes. This is important to sit with for a minute, because when communication styles mismatch, the autistic person is usually the one expected to adapt. They're the one expected to make more eye contact, change how they talk, communicate in ways that feel more natural to the NT majority. Think about how unfair that is. Over time, some children start approaching social interaction more like a performance than a relationship. They become focused on, am I talking too much? Am I doing this right? What am I supposed to say next? And ironically, the harder they work to perform social interaction correctly, the harder it can become feel that genuine connection inside of the interaction itself. I know that many parents have seen versions of this. Maybe your child comes home completely exhausted after spending the entire day trying to fit into social environments that don't feel natural to them. And you believe they genuinely want friendship, but slowly start saying, I really don't care about friends anyway. And sometimes that happens when friendship starts feeling more draining than rewarding. When your child spends most of the interaction trying to manage the mismatch and can't simply enjoy the relationship, that makes perfect sense. Here are some things you can look for as they relate to your child. The first is eye contact. Sometimes eye contact requires so much concentration that it interferes with listening and responding naturally. Your child may be spending so much energy trying to look engaged that they have fewer resources left for processing the conversation itself. I know that other people expect eye contact, and interactions can sometimes feel awkward without it, but there can also be a cost to forcing it. The next thing to think about is how unstructured the interaction is and how well your child does with that. Unstructured social situations like recess or play dates often contain too many points of uncertainty for a child to really relax and enjoy the interaction. Now your child's trying to manage the activity, the conversation, the pacing, the social cues, and the unpredictability of the interaction all at once. And finally, think about whether your child does a lot of masking during social interaction. Some autistic children become so very skilled at studying social behavior and copying it, particularly many girls, though certainly not all girls, and it's certainly not limited to girls. And constantly monitoring and adjusting yourself socially requires a tremendous amount of energy. So it's important to be aware of the masking and the toll that it can take so you can better support your child's needs around social interaction. So what can you do to help your child? First, just be aware of whether you're measuring friendship only through neurotypical social standards. If your child has one meaningful connection, they may already feel socially connected and fulfilled. An online friend, with supervision of course, can be a real friend. A child they only see at robotics club is a real friend. A shared interest friend counts. Connection does not have to look conventional to be meaningful. And one of the most effective things we can do is help autistic kids find environments where connection happens more naturally and in ways that feel meaningful to them. Shared interests help enormously. Robotics, gaming, art, we're always more drawn to people with whom we have common interests. Your children are no different. I would have a hard time staying deeply connected with someone who wanted to talk endlessly about football, but talk to me about lipstick or hair products and I'm your girl. One-on-one interactions are also often easier than groups too. One child, one shared activity, one predictable time frame, that's often where most authentic connection begins. Maybe your child will eventually love group activities, or maybe they'll always prefer one or two close friends. We want to respect our child's social style. That said, sometimes children say, I don't want friends. Sometimes the socializing has become so taxing, confusing, or discouraging that pulling away just feels safer. We don't want to force children into constant uncomfortable social performance, but we also want to make sure we're providing enough support to help them grow socially over time. I think of it a little like reading. If a child struggles with reading, we wouldn't decide they should never read again. We'd look for ways to support their growth while respecting who they are. Social interaction, like reading, is a life skill. And being able to communicate needs, tolerate interaction, collaborate with others, and build connection, where desired, those are important. The goal is helping them build social capacity in ways that are authentic, supportive, and meaningful to them. And that goal often leads to deeper relationships over time anyway. I'd really love to hear from you in the comments. Has your child found connection somewhere unexpected? An online community, a shared interest group, maybe one particular friend who just seemed to get them? I think hearing those other stories helps parents see the range of what's possible. If this video gave you a new way to think about your child's social world, I hope you'll consider subscribing, dropping a like, and I'll see you in the next video.